Welcome to the second episode of the Chase Me podcast. Today we have on our very first guest. He's a music producer, self-taught guitarist, and college student out of Lubbock, Texas. We've been friends since junior year, and without him, I wouldn't have ever become a producer because around this time is when we both opened up the laptop and started producing for the first time. So I brought him into the studio today to have him on as my first official guest on the podcast to kind of give our backstory and how we started this whole music journey. This is Cameron Chip. All right. So thanks for being here on my second official episode. You're the first guest on this podcast.
Thanks for having me, man.
So I wanted to talk, kind of about just our life in general, being friends, how we became friends, who you are before you met me, where you came from, because you're not originally from Texas.
Yeah.
And just kind of get into that today. So
I grew up in the Northeast, specifically Rhode Island, and spent most of my childhood there. And I, moved to Texas in 2015 for high school. And I think we met somewhere during sophomore year, end of 2017. And going into 2018, and that is when we really became close through a mutual friend. Started hanging out every day, and it's definitely a time. That's also
music, dude.
Yeah,
that's when that started.
Yeah, that's really when we started getting into music. It was late 2017 for Christmas. That's when I got my MacBook that had GarageBand on it. And, we just started messing around, had no idea what we were doing, but we were both really passionate about music. So we figured we'd give it a shot. Obviously, everything that came out of it was pretty terrible, but we had no idea what we were doing. But then a couple months later, we decided to invest into some music stuff. And that's when we got Logic Pro, which is the upgraded version of GarageBand to make music.
We split that, right?
Yeah,
we split the bill on that to put it on my desktop.
It was $200, and we both paid $100. I think we were employed at that time. I worked at a salad restaurant.
Extreme salads.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah. That's when we really started getting into everything, and it was a fun time. It really was. Going through high school, we had not a ton of responsibilities, and found ourselves just cooped up in the house making music half the time. Definitely learned a lot from that period, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that kind of made us get serious, because that's when we started looking at California.
Yeah.
We went to a program, a part of Westlake recording studio out there on Santa Monica. And we went there for their month-long program. And we were out there for that summer. It kind of gave us that entry-level knowledge that we needed to know on beginning to start our professional kind of look at music, just because it was weekly focused on recording was one week, the next week was mixing, last week mastering, whatever. It didn't tell us how to do it, but it was definitely our way into understanding what all went into making a record really good.
Yeah, obviously you can't learn everything over a month-long period. It's supposed to be a summer class, but it definitely introduces you into the basics of recording, mixing, mastering, whatever it is. I think it's a really good opportunity just to get some knowledge. If you wanted to do a full course on music production, I think going to a 4-year school, getting a degree in musical studies or something like that, is probably your best bet. But for what we had to do at the time, fresh out of high school, and we didn't know if we wanted to go to college for music, because at that point, really, we didn't know. It wasn't feasible at that point because we had no knowledge. Right. So I think that was a great program for us. And we learned a lot. It was a short period, but we learned a lot. So
yeah, it was definitely something that we took from it and ran with our original intentions of it. What I mean by that is I was such a fan of certain music that I wanted to emulate, and you had your workflow when you would get into the studio, and it was just definitely inspired by what you were heavily grown up around and what you were doing. Because you're now today, because it's been 5 years, you're more the person that'll be rhythmically inclined on your production, or you'll actually use a real guitar, where I just kind of went and stayed in that melodic route while wanting to learn how to mix and master and do a whole record.
It's funny because I always had a thing for trying to find new sounds. I'd always download sound packs and whatever. And I realized I just kind of hated sound designing because it was so complicated. And I figured the best way to get rid of that problem would just be to record live instruments. I got a guitar during COVID and picked it up, tried to at least, but and I think that was really fun because, the entire time of my production career at that point had just been synthetic instruments on the, computer and whatnot. So challenging myself to record live was really fun. And I think it's awesome because it's, you can't just emulate guitar. It sounds a lot more real and warm and true, I think. And I think it's awesome to definitely record. But I also wouldn't knack you for using synthetic stuff, because obviously at this point in our production career, we kind of are like in different genres, but at the same time, we'll find something that we can find a common ground on.
Yeah. And it's also to a point where now like anything that we record in the studio that's an actual instrument, you can definitely tell because the quality of the studio has just gotten better. All the analog gear, all the gear that's like available now. But also I've really learned to like maneuver ways around that when I don't have a guitarist. Like when I have to, manufacture my instruments on the computer, I can still get it to where the quality sounds exactly like a instrument, but it's still like the little characteristics of the guitar, like the string slap back and stuff like that, that you miss when you're not actually recording the instrument. Yeah.
I think one of my favorite things that a lot of the time gets missed in synthetic instruments is the slide on a guitar when you're sliding frets, because you don't hear that, you just hear the strum. So sliding on the fretboard is it's a way to keep the sound real. And a lot of the times you can't emulate that. So
yeah, it's like Omnisphere has all those slide, it's like the 8 different versions of the same guitar, but it has all the little pick sounds. So it's like, who's gonna put all that MIDI to make it sound real? Like, just get a real guitar and get a real guitarist. Yeah. Well, moving on from Create, COVID kind of just was the whole middle of us starting like any music shit anyways. So by the time we got back, it was like I was focusing on my thing, you're focusing on your thing, and then COVID happened, and then now we're where we're at. We are where we are at now, which you went down the college route. So go ahead and explain your college life and how that's been, and you graduating, I guess, a year from now.
Yeah, right? Yeah. No, college was rough for me at the start. I wanted to go to college. I just wasn't prepared for it at the time. And, I did a year at community and it went fine. But during COVID is where my grades really fell off. I racked up a couple Fs and my GPA completely dropped, and it was rough. And I honestly thought about, quitting it and focusing on music, whatever. But I decided to stick with it and ended up changing 2 more schools and trying to get that GPA bounce back up. Eventually I did, and that's where I'm at right now, and I've got about a year left. But, I still find time to make music when I can and stuff like that. I think it's super important because a lot of the time doing schoolwork and homework and all that stuff, studying, gets really mundane. It gets boring, and you don't really have a way to show your creative side in that unless you're like an art major. But a lot of the times I'll find myself, opening up my laptop and just trying to create something. But yeah, school is obviously you didn't go to school, and that led to you being able to try to focus on mastering your craft in music, which is awesome, I think. So
yeah, it's really been stressful because now that I'm 23, I kind of like look back and often wonder like what would have school done for me, because I am in a position where my parents are wanting to invest in what I want to do rather than just me deciding off the bat to have gone to school, especially back when I was going through all that shit. It was kind of just like there was no way that they were going to get their money's worth by sending me to school because I wasn't going to focus. I wouldn't like.
There's a chance you would have dropped out. I would say so.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, it's just been different. It's been different because what's your life in Lubbock outside of school? Like, you've been able to like socialize a lot more and get away from Rockwall. Get away from all of our old high school shit.
Yeah, it's been great. A lot of awesome friends out there that we've met. A couple of them are actually super talented. I've had the honor of recording with.
Yeah, shout him out, Pete.
My boy Peter Arena, country artist out in Lubbock.
Yeah, I want to meet Pete.
He's
So
awesome.
If he ends up watching this, I want to meet you. You're gonna be at the studio at some point. So.
Yeah, he's awesome. And, I've gotten a chance to work with him and record with him a little bit and go to some of his live shows. And it's awesome because that's how I've been able to express my creativity while I'm there. Because even though I'm there for school, I still get to work on what I love to do. And that's super important. But yeah, it's been great. A lot of social aspects. Just trying to keep sane, through the whole thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no,
But
it's been great.
you finished strong this semester.
Yeah.
Like, really strong.
Well, I got 4 A's, communications major, whatever you'll do with that what you will. But, back in the day when I was getting F's, A's seemed impossible. So we'll take that. But, yeah, man, progression feels great. Love it. It's awesome. So.
Yeah. Well, what's your, cause I remember, COVID was just a depressing time anyways, but you were definitely not about school, dude. You
Definitely
were just not
wasn't
about
there.
it. So what was that flip this year? Was it just your location change, or was it?
It was a big mix. I think one was the environment. I was in one school where the area I was in, I just really didn't like. And I think it was a mix of that and the fact that was my final chance. It was either go for it or you're out. And I kind of just wanted to give it one last hurrah and see what I could do. And it actually worked. I think, though, you're right, though, a big factor of it was the environment I was in, who you surround yourself with, where you are. As long as, if you are not happy in the situation you're in, I highly recommend trying to change something, even if it's little, because it can make a huge difference and you won't realize it until it's done. But it made a huge difference for me, changing schools and, getting to meet some awesome people. And yeah, it's very important to figure out what makes you happy, and one of those things was, being successful in whatever I do, whether it be school or whatever. And I definitely wanted to just keep progression going in my life. That definitely keeps me going as long as I'm doing 1% better than the day I was yesterday. I feel complete. It's awesome. So that's definitely something I aim to.
See, you're very progression oriented. Does that ever I have an issue where everything that I want to do, if I can't focus on that, I start getting very, I feel down on myself because I didn't get to work on the podcast that day. And now today I want to work on music and it's the creativity is not there and there's so much I want to do, but I don't look at what I've already done,
right?
With one thing or with one or two other things.
Yeah.
And it just becomes this whole melting pot of I never release anything and then I never get anything done or, so it gets it weighs me down keeping track of progress.
It's like a graph. I mean, if you picture kind of like a stock, right? And you look at it from the day and let's say it's tanked that day, right? All you got to really do is zoom out years, however, and you'll see that graph started really low, kept going. It has its ups and downs, but it's still going in the right direction. And sometimes, you'll have a bad day or feel burnt out or, just not feeling it. You're tired, exhausted, whatever it is. But as long as you are moving towards the right direction, because doing something is better than doing nothing, obviously. And working towards something, having a goal in mind is very important. So,
yeah.
And I know you work a lot and on music and stuff, that's what you've dedicated yourself to and committed yourself to. And I could totally see how you could get burnt out pretty easily doing that.
I burn myself out. I feel like I'm burnt out every day. Yeah. I haven't mastered that yet. I haven't mastered balancing everything I have to do because dude, I'm learning how to be a business owner now.
Yeah.
Where it's that's going to be a journey within itself, learning how to properly get out there. And part of the reason why I started my podcast was to get better at social media, get better at communication.
Yeah.
Because I'll stumble at my words. Y'all hear me say, a bunch of that, where it's because I just wasn't so extroverted. I've always been kind of just in my bubble, had my close friends around me, and that's about it. And now I'm having to kind of make that shift in a lot of different areas of my life where I got to be more social and I got to be more outwardly like that.
Does that cause you to get burnt out though? Do you lose inspiration by doing the same thing or just being creative all the time?
I think what burns me out is the fact that I want to do so much and I can't finish anything.
Right.
I think it's like I spread myself too thin.
Yeah.
And then it's like just this constant cycle of like, well, one day I'm going to be doing this and the next day I'm going to do that. And then, that could be a mentally draining day with just waking up. You can just have those days where you wake up and you're just like already down. And then it's like even a fight to eat the right meal and then go to the gym.
Yeah.
Like just do basic stuff. So I think I get burnt out just, because I spread myself too thin. And I don't really like reward myself in my brain in a way of like, I did good today. Like by getting that next episode done for their podcast or whatever. Like it's just weird. It's like I have a constant need to like, well, now that I'm done editing this, now I'm not being productive.
Right.
Like I should be doing something. Like that's what my head does all the time, dude.
Well, you got to stay organized, and obviously it's probably better to focus heavily on one thing and bang it out versus do a little bit of a lot of things. I feel like. But do you ever find yourself losing inspiration? Because being creative all the time is hard.
Dude, yeah, and you're gonna get on to me about this because you always tell me I need to listen to more music. Because literally the only music I listen to is the demos that I make. Like it's not necessarily just always my songs. It could be Mark's stuff. Or
if you open this guy's Apple Music, the only thing you will see is just anything that he's done, and that's totally fine, because I know the only thing he does with those is listen to them and constantly analyze what could change or what could be better.
Oh, it's ruined listening to music for me.
Oh, of course.
I feel like I've overdone it to the point where like, because my replays from 2017, 2018, 2019 all stacked, all different songs, different artists, all over the place. And then like 2020, 2021,
there's nothing there.
2022, it just starts disappearing, and it's just all these no artist icons on my Apple Music, because it's just like anybody who bounces something through my computer, it gets put on my Apple Music.
Right.
So I'm already like going and listening to like whatever Mitchell and I created that day, or me and Keaton, or Mark, or you and I, and then anything you send me, I'm already adding to playlists that I'm like, okay, I want to work on this with him in the future, like, and then I'll come back to it. I'm still listening to a Memoriam beat.
Wow, that's cool.
And this was a name of a demo that we made like back in the GarageBand days. Like I'm still listening to certain demos, and at this point, dude, I have like
thousands.
Dude, I want to say over 1,000, but I think whenever I was making Days in the Dark, it was like 800.
Well,
around 800.
Let me ask you this:
which was like 3 years ago.
Why did you get into music in the first place?
Man, well, that's tough. Well, really, because you came over.
Well, no, but I'm saying, what made you passionate about music?
Oh, yeah. Well, I was definitely going through like a depressing time.
Right.
And we don't have to get into about.
You listened to all these artists?
Yeah, I was listening to X a lot during that time because, I mean, a lot of people understand why X kind of blew up on the scene. He was very like relatable. And especially as like a male teenager who didn't know how to deal with his emotions, that was very attractive to me as an artist.
Yeah.
Where like that was like a huge fuel. But I think I was also just like running from stuff too. So I was just like really amped to like, you and I had just become friends, and we were like, dude, just like vaping was super huge. We were doing the teen crap, getting in trouble. But it was just like always like it was like a rush, just getting onto the laptop and like just doing stupid stuff. So that is what really became inspiring to me, because I didn't even think of music as like all the production and computer work that goes into it until you and I were really like getting into it. Yeah, because my whole life I was playing piano, playing drums, playing cello. Like I had played actual instruments, which gave me the music theory I needed, but I had no idea how to do any of this shit.
I think it's super important to find what keeps you inspired. There was a time in my life where I kind of got into a dark place, and I just, not even music wise, just anything, nothing seemed fun anymore. You needed to find something to keep me going, whatever. And I remember thinking back to my life as a kid and what I liked to do. And so much so that I actually remember taking, I spent way too much money on a trip up to Rhode Island, where I was, my childhood was from. And I just spent the entire week there looking for what I used to like to do. I went skateboarding, rode bikes, went to the beach, just did whatever, just to figure out and try to recall what I enjoyed doing as a kid. Yeah. So that way I could kind of come back here and be like, okay, this is what I like to do. This is what inspires me. This brings me joy. And that's how I kind of figured out specifically that, because I remember every place I went to when I visited during that trip, there was a song playing, whether it reminded me of that place or, just a time period. There was always a song playing, and I knew that I loved music because of that. I remember being a kid listening to all that music, and that's what made me passionate about it. So I think it's super important to figure out what inspires you and what you like to do. And that's one of the big ways that I avoid personally burnout, and obviously, you got to work and stuff. There's stuff to do for music, but taking that free time to do what you like to do, because especially when you're doing a creative, hobby or career, whatever it is, you need to keep that creativity fueled because you're going to use it all eventually, right? So if you're not doing stuff that you enjoy or have fun doing, you're going to run dry eventually. So I think it's super important to stay inspired somehow.
Dude, yeah, and you're always listening to new shit. So I always try to, like, every time, because over the last couple of years with you being in college, I see you less frequently. So each time I do see you, I get that remindance again of, like, oh yeah, he's always going to play some new songs that he's been finding, or like all this stuff. And it's not necessarily going to be us playing what we've made. But
that happens too, but
yeah, it does happen. But we are in that same boat though, of we don't release anything. Because what you'll do is you'll send me some amazing demo that you're like, yeah, I made this in my bedroom just with, a fucking, but pencil in my hand while I was doing homework, and made this in 5 minutes, and then, just sent it to you. But I hate it, so, I don't want to do anything. And then I'm like, I love it, I want to do something with it, but then we'll end up both not working on.
Yep.
So we need to address that. That's our unique mutual problem, is that we don't release anything.
And that's the great musician's paradox is
we know what to do.
I love to make music and I want to share it with the world. And when it's time to share it with the world, you're like, it's not ready for the world to hear yet.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest things. And, I'm also just I don't have the attention span. I'll make a song, get to a 16 bar loop. That could be a chorus. And then I say, that's great. Close it up, start a new one, and you'll never see it again. It just stays in the files. And, finishing, it's just kind of hard because it takes time, you have to perfect. And I think as artists, people like to avoid trying to get it to where you want it to be, because in your head, you're telling yourself it's never going to be perfect. So I don't want to work on it, and I think that's a big problem that both of us have.
Well, what's your goal? Once you finish, let's get into that, because you're gonna finish school next year.
Yeah.
So we definitely should get together and put something together before then.
Yeah.
For just for our own peace of mind, but at the same time, what are your goals with music moving forward now that you're kind of getting to the end of your college education and you're gonna pursue actually, what's going to make you money.
Yeah.
So, because my thing is I'm still on the line. I'm not making money yet,
right,
with music. So yeah, what's your next year goal, and what's your goal with music?
Well, I never really thought too much into it. I always wanted to do something in music. The problem is it often seems the industry seems very intimidating.
Yeah, chaotic too.
Yeah, because it's about popularity and all this other stuff. And I just didn't know if I wanted to go to school for music marketing or something like that. Doing something involving the business side of music would be awesome. I would love to do something like that. Because I still have the passion to produce and stuff like that. I just I don't know if I could see myself doing it as a career, but I would love to do something music oriented. I definitely see you doing something production wise. But I don't know. I guess we'll have to see when we get there.
Yeah.
Because I want to do something. I just haven't decided what yet. And I don't know.
Which isn't you're supposed to know exactly what you want. I mean, we're still young, still figuring it out.
Well, usually by college, they tell you to figure shit out.
Yeah, but that's so unrealistic now.
I know, right?
It's kind of yeah. And we're in that space where we have a lot of opportunities. We're blessed in that area where we have a lot of opportunities. So it's kind of let me build myself up and then figure out what's going to be that best road to take.
Yeah. I'm only 21. And
what degree? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but what degree are you gonna end up having?
The most bullshit one you can get, communications.
Well, didn't you do like a business minor or something?
I have business classes, and there's a possibility that I end up transferring to a different major. To save my ass with all my F's on my transcript, I had to go to an easier major. But we'll see about that. But the moral of the story that I was going to say is that I'm only 21. Yeah. Most people don't have shit figured out by 21. Yeah. And a lot of adults in society want you to. And, some people do. I mean, you see some young artists. Let's take Billie Eilish, for example, who is 16 when she made her first hit, and by the time she's 21, she's an international superstar, whatever. But not everybody runs at that pace, because also you can be 27.
1 in 10 million.
That's what I'm saying. Then you could be 27 and still be behind, right? Yeah. But there's no behind, there's no in front. It's just everybody works at their own speed. And so, by the time I get out of school, I guess I'll have all the time in the world to figure out what exactly I want to do. But I don't know, because the only ones you hear about are the famous people that figured it out when they were 17 years old, right? Yeah. So definitely take things. I always preached that you're never behind, you're never ahead. You're just doing it at your own point.
Dude, yeah, I have actually extreme age anxiety. I think my one of the things that's caused a lot of anxiety in my life is I'll set these expectations on myself for the future, and then whenever I don't hit it, it's
failure.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I
just
fucking
quit.
Damn. And then how am I gonna because for so long I've been working on this project, this album, and I'm just every year I get older, I'm just another age. Yep. I'm well, this person did it by this age, so I know I'm fucking up, and it's just dude, it's so crazy. I know it's not the right thing I should be doing, but it's just natural to me to have that age anxiety thing.
The big saying is comparison is the thief of joy, because you're never going to be happy as long as you compare yourself to this guy, that guy, her, him, whatever, because they're always going to be either above you or behind you, whatever,
Yeah.
And you'll always be wanting more. Just work at your own pace. That's all that really matters.
Dude, yeah.
As long as you are actively doing something to better yourself or get to where you want to be, you're doing just fine. At least that's what I think. Because I experienced that, when I was a junior with freshman credits in college and everybody else is about to graduate, I'm like, holy shit, I'm behind,
Oh, were you behind?
Yeah.
I didn't know you were behind.
Dude, I got a lot of F's on my transcript.
Wait, because our class was, because we were technically 2018.
Well, when I say behind, I'm talking about college. So while everyone was just getting their credits and everything like that, moving up, by the time I was a junior, because I was 20 years old, however old I was, I didn't even have enough credits to be a sophomore, technically. Okay. So because I got Fs, which just are 0 credits.
So you're playing catch up right now?
I was playing catch up for a while, and I still am, but to a much better extent now. I'm winning the losing battle.
That's good.
But yeah, no, because during that time period, all I did was compare myself to him, her, all my friends. Holy shit, they're way ahead of me. And at this point, why am I even trying? By the time I get out of school, they're going to have a wife, kids, family, die, right? That's what it fucking felt like. Yeah. But, after another year or two, I realized, hey, I can figure it out. I just got to give myself some time. And comparing myself to other people was just killing my ego and just everything. So,
dude, yeah, I think that's just become worse, though. That's a whole social media thing. I don't even want to get into that, 'cause everybody knows what that does to you.
That's another episode.
Yeah, but it's just what it is now. It's that. It's just another thing you got to maneuver. Because everything changes as we age. It's some parents, I feel like we're very lucky just with the average parents that we have that are supporting us, but it's a lot of people don't have fucking anybody to support,
of course, dude.
Even them doing remotely outside of what they want them to do. And it's I forgot where I was going with that, but fuck, dude, I hate when that happens.
We're very blessed to be in the position we are today, for sure. Being able to go
have choices, just to have choices. Yeah, I was going somewhere with that, but yeah.
I mean, every parent wants their kids to be successful. It's just there's a good chance that your kid's not going to want to do the same thing as you. Yeah, my mom's an accountant. I didn't want to be an accountant. I can barely pass algebra math.
Well, yeah, damn, because everybody that comes to my mom's office, because my mom's an eye doctor, they're always like, so are you going to follow in her footsteps? Do you want to be an eye doctor? It's like, dude, how many dentists do you know that their kids grew up to be dentists?
Right.
How many people do you know that their kids grew up in unless they own a fucking restaurant?
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to see a lot of that.
Those dentists were definitely taking their kids' Halloween candy.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, no Halloween candy in the house. Yeah, for sure. That would turn them off. But, yeah, definitely. I think it's just because when you grow up and you see how much they stress, it makes you think, oh, that job does that. But really, it's just life.
Yeah.
Because every job is going to have like that effect to you of some sort. Yeah. Dude. Yeah, because we would have killed to walk into this studio like 5 years ago.
Oh my God.
And now it's just like, oh yeah, we just have it.
Our studio, our keyboard in our studio was our typing keyboard.
Yeah.
We didn't have a
before
piano.
the little
Oh we didn't have anything. And now we're very fortunate enough to have a lot of equipment that is super helpful when creating. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm very blessed to be in the position I am. I love being creative, even though it's never led into anything actually being released.
It will, bro. Remember, it's everybody's at their own.
See, I got to remind myself constantly. But no, it's just, always being creative is awesome. And it's, if you're not being creative in any outlet whatsoever, whether it be drawing, music, videography, photography, find something where you can express yourself, because that is super helpful. And I think it is very important to find a modem to express yourself, because it kind of shows people things about you, and you're allowed to get the things in your mind off your head without, actually saying them. Right.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it definitely is like an outward expression. Like, who are your biggest inspirations? Like, what made you? Because we were talking about inspiration itself, but like artist wise,
yeah.
Because first off, start with the type of music you make, and then your inspirations in that field. Because you listen to a lot of hip hop, you listen to a lot of EDM, you listen to a lot of this.
Yeah, I grew up listening to the radio when I was a kid, but I found myself listening to a lot of alternative and indie stuff when I was like 13, 14. Stuff like Bastille, Imagine Dragons, just a lot of stuff like that, because I enjoyed the singing aspects and everything like that. Getting into high school, started listening to a lot of hip hop and everything like that. And I also listened to like electronic here and there. But I've made a lot of different genres of music, but there's one that I always find myself leaning towards, no matter how hard I try not to, is electronic EDM. It just comes naturally to me. You can give me a 4-bar loop of a guitar progression, and somehow I'll turn it into an EDM song. I don't know how, but it just always happens. I just happen to excel in it. At least,
dude, yeah,
it
that's
comes
for sure
easiest to me. But those, I think people like, one of my favorite bands, Hippie Sabotage, those guys are awesome. And they really inspired me, watching them perform live and seeing Jeff, the main guy of Hippie Sabotage, just shred on the guitar. I was like, I want to do that, and that seems so awesome. And, still to this day, I find myself listening to a lot of different genres. That's how I like to stay, that's how I like to keep myself making a variety of music, because if you just make the same trap hip hop beat 24 times over, you're going to get bored of it, right? And I know, for reference, like X had a whole album with Spanish music, rap, acoustic singing, whatever it may be. And that's how you stay, not relevant as an artist. You don't have to stay relevant, but it's how you keep yourself going and not getting bored or burnt out or losing creativity. Who would you say your people are?
Well, you definitely know mine, but a lot of people wouldn't.
Yeah, go for it.
Man, I got such a list. I got my main ones, of course, that are X and The Weeknd.
Right.
I gotta say are my top two. They're goated. And then I love hip hop. I really actually used to hate rap whenever I was a kid.
Yeah.
Because I just thought it was like, I thought it was trashy. Like a lot of the songs back then were just like kind of trash anyways,
Right.
like that you weren't supposed to listen to as a kid. But then you grow up and realize like music is like a
Who
whole
cares?
universe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as a kid, it was always like Justin Timberlake, for sure. Justin Timberlake.
Big
My-
Adele guy, huh?
Yeah, Adele. Yeah, my dad put me on Adele. I guess my dad was going through something because one day he put on Someone Like You at the end of a Texas Rangers game, and we were on the way to like get a Taco Bueno.
They must have lost bad that day.
I know, and so yeah, I'll never forget that moment. That was the first time I ever heard Adele. I was in the drive-through, and the song was playing. My dad was playing it from his iPod, you know, the little fucking, and I was like, Dad, who is this? And he was like, what? Like you want to know who this is? So it was a lot of singers. I was never like big into like the like huge mainstream people though.
Yeah.
Like Adele wasn't like hugely mainstream back then, like with Chasing Pavements and Someone Like You and stuff like that. She was just like breaking. But I was never big into like Black Eyed Peas or like, you know, the early 2000s, just normal pop stuff. Justin Timberlake was really mainstream, but
Let me ask you this.
like Taylor Swift and shit, no.
Would you say when you were younger, would you focus more on lyrics of songs or production?
Oh, beats, 100%.
That's how
Yeah.
exactly how I was. And that's how I knew I could listen to a song 300 times and I could still not tell you the lyrics because the entire time I was listening to the instrumental.
I'm the biggest fan of X's music. I feel like I know his stuff by heart.
Yeah.
There's not one song I know of his that I could sing by heart.
Yeah.
Like lyric wise. Like I know exactly, like when I hear the song, what he's saying, what he's trying to like convey as the song message. But no, dude, as a kid, always like production. I
Yeah.
would just be so like, plus it was during the time where like our generation was different, dude. It was just like we had the exponential childhood because it was iPhones at 7, it was the next thing at 9,
Yep.
and then 11 years old, it was like the PlayStation 3 and like just
Well, not
crazy
to
shit.
mention-
Music was different.
That's the
like,
thing
right
is
then.
you didn't have to buy CDs anymore.
Yeah, no CDs.
You know, streaming services came out.
Electronic music,
Yeah.
dude, just like exploded. Beat
Yep.
making got way easier. Timbaland is you know, Justin Timberlake, again, another partner of his, but yeah, Timbaland definitely inspired like me getting into rap though, because
Right.
I remember songs like "Carry Out" with Justin Timberlake. Like that was maybe like the first like kind of hip hop song of Justin's that I was like, oh shit,
Right.
Like, Chop Me Up. Fuck man, there were Gorilla Zoe. You remember that song I showed you in high school? It's
Yeah.
I Got It by
Yeah.
Gorilla Zoe, dude. That was Chris. Fuck. He was a baseball player on the Texas Rangers. It was Chris Young. I think it was Chris Young was his name, and his walkout song was "I Got It" by Gorilla Zoe. And I heard that at 9 years old, and I was like, dude, that is the most
That's the one.
gangster song I've ever heard. It's so good. Yeah, and yeah, I think growing up in this generation the way we have, like that definitely influenced my music being, or like my musical side being more leaning towards production, because it was just so like music was evolved so heavy like once the 2000s came around.
I'd like to believe that if I was born in the 90s, that I would be a kick-ass lyricist,
Yeah,
you know,
right, yeah.
for rock, whatever it is. But, you know, getting into those early 2000s and late 2000s, you've got amazing producers like Zed, David Guetta,
Dude, yeah, David Guetta, Memories, and
yeah,
like,
dude, all those guys, you know, and it was, you know, Calvin Harris had amazing bangers throughout that time period, and it was songs like those that made me want to really get into production. And I remember I was like 12 years old, and my grandfather gave me a piano. It was just a piano. You plug it in, right? It's the one we have right outside. And you can plug in the MIDI to the back.
yeah.
And I put it into it was a Mac Mini that was like, could barely run Google. And I just remember looking up keys to songs because I didn't know how to play. I was like 12 years old. And I opened GarageBand on that and I did some shit, but I didn't know what I was doing. And so I ended up just never trying it again. But that's when I realized, like, one day when I'm older, I definitely want to get into this.
One day when I'm older, I know how to do anything.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
It's been a wild ride. Definitely has. 5 years later, I could still pull up my first beat. I don't want to, though. I definitely don't want to.
Yeah, one day we definitely got to expose that shit, though. Like all the starter stuff. You remember, bro? You remember Streets?
Yeah.
These streets are
you better stop right there.
Oh, God. Man, that was the first song that we really collaborated, right? Where I like actually put down vocals and you were the producer. Right?
Yeah,
that's got to be the actual first one, because then it was just like beats from minute.
Well, neither of us had ever made a singing song.
Yeah,
we had just done production.
See, and that's the thing too, is like, I'm gonna claim this now, because when I start actually releasing music, people like, I grew up singing in choir. I grew up singing in middle school, and like, I want to say like 8th grade, I won a singing competition. And then as soon as I won it, I was like, I'm done. I don't want to sing anymore. I'm over it. Like, I already got the, like, okay, I get the hoopla from it. But of course, it was one of those middle school competitions that were like entry level. It's not like I was fucking, Aaron Kinsey's like actual raw singing talent.
Yeah.
Like, now I used to like struggle even a couple years ago when people would ask, like, so what kind of music do you make? It's always like, it's so hard to answer that, because I'm like, well, I'm still figuring it out, because I'm trying to figure out who I am as an artist. But at the same time, like, I'm not a singer, dude.
Right.
I think I'm a recording artist.
Yeah.
Like that, it's a totally different thing, because it's like I have to rely on the perfectionist that a computer can do to like make my music good. And like, I could make raw vocals. It's just not going to be like, I would have to take 100 takes before I get my fucking shit perfect. And it's like, that's just not like, I don't want to be a singer. I want to be a recording artist who, like, if I were to perform, it'd be like some hippie stuff.
Yeah.
Where like we perform to the songs and just have a crazy show. Yeah. Because that's the kind of music I want to be, is like really like a showman's kind of thing, instead of like so raw. Because it's like, I'm not that. I'm not a raw singer. I don't like raw. I don't like singing karaoke. Like, I don't like doing cover songs. I don't like,
But
I love every other aspect. Mixing, mastering, all that. Producing.
I knew I wasn't a singer. Did I ever tell you? I definitely haven't told you this. It was 6th or 7th grade, and the small Catholic school that I went to puts on a play every year. And they needed people to sing, because, not everybody wanted to sing.
Yeah.
And I kind of got forced into doing it. And it was The Little Mermaid, and I had to sing this stupid song in front of all the parents and however many people were there. And I could still remember the lyrics today. I'm like traumatized by it. But I knew I was not a singer once I watched the video back and listened to myself singing, and I realized how much I just did not like it. Yeah. So I definitely knew if I was ever going to do something in music, I was not going to be the guy on stage. I was going to be the guy backstage working on whatever,
It's either that, or you just put in so much effort and money into like vocal training. Because here's the crazy thing. When I worked with, because I had a vocal coach in middle school who was, she focused on like younger kids. She focused on like vocal training for kids who were wanting to learn how to sing or get into singing. And then when I went to that singing success program in 2019, I went in Nashville. Or it was like, it was right after LA. It was kind of like during that weird time where you and I weren't really like talking all the time.
Gotcha.
But I went to Nashville, and I went out there for a week for this program, and it was run by a bunch of people that are in the industry. Like Taylor Swift's manager was there that found her at 15, like a lot of her talent scouts, and then a lot of just Nashville country artists were even there, like some big name guys. And it was interesting because there were vocal coaches there, and this one guy in particular put together the duo Maddie and Tay. And
I remember them.
Yeah, so he found them, and he's basically a scouter where he pairs people together that he thinks would make a good group. Right. Kind of like how Simon Cowell did with One Direction. Yeah. Where he kind of like took the guys and was like, okay, look, we can make this happen. Like that kind of thing, right? Yeah. And so when I went there were probably like 100 different people part of this like program. that signed up for it to like go and get to learn the industry and learn about the vocal structure and how a recording artist, really makes their craft, basically. Whatever. What I'm trying to say is there were a couple vocal coaches there that were really keen on finding people that they thought were going to be a good fit for like starting them, like starting their career type of thing. And so this guy, Tom McKinney, he put Maddie and Tay together. He worked with Beyonce's sister and what's her, Solange? Solange is Beyonce's sister, I think. He worked with her. So he was a big vocal coach in Houston, $300 an hour to work with him. And so he was already working with this kid who is just like one of those raw talent kids, can play the guitar, knows every chord type of thing, and had a pitch perfect voice. For some reason, he came up to me and he was like, I think y'all two would make a really good duo. Like, I want to make this happen. Because at the Singing Success, we had to like perform in front of people. Like, that was my first time ever not recording, but vocally performing in front of people. It was fucking scary, honestly. But he took me aside with this kid, and he's like, I've been working with Dutch, and he thinks that you and him could be a really good duo. So then after talking to him, I got to get a couple lessons with Tom McKinney, dude, and he changed my fucking life. Yeah. Because I immediately started singing differently. The way that I would, like, I was always like a nervous recorder, like when I get on the mic. And now I'm not, like, I at least have the capacity to like mess up and not give a shit. Right. Like where I can just keep recording. Like I ended up not going through with it because I knew the people I wanted to work with, and just me and this kid just weren't quite like clicking. Yeah. And I don't like those unnatural, relationships. If it feels forced, then it's kind of like arranged marriage. Yeah. I don't want to do that. So, and it's nothing against him or nothing against Tom. It was just like, I think this is a little bit too much. Like, I think this is a little bit out of what I was wanting to do. I don't want to just be a singer while he's also singing and playing guitar. I didn't really want to be a duo. I wanted to learn how to really vocalize and record, Yeah. And so I took what I did from that, and it's like changed how I produce. Yeah. Because I produce with my mouth now. Yeah. Where I can like really, if there's an idea that I'm trying to explain. I did this with Mitchell more than anybody because we were just kind of like that. We just like vocally produced our stuff. When we were trying to explain an idea, we would like vocalize it. Get on the mic. Yeah. And then
find the instruments.
Exactly. So, dude, yeah. Like, and working with him, he basically, to this whole point, he was basically like, anybody, you could take somebody who has like dog shit vocals, dude. Yeah. Somebody who could not hit a fucking, like a bunch of that shit, right? And with time and like effort and all that shit, you can get them to near pitch perfect.
Oh, 100%.
Because the vocal cord is basically a muscle. Yeah. So it's like that already in my head, like put me to where like, okay, I'm not a singer. I'm a recording artist. I produce my own music. Right. I like showing off the fact that it's not really me singing on the song. That's the art. It's me encompassing the fact that I mixed it, I mastered it, I recorded it, and I fucking sang on it. Like that kind of thing. And that fucking, that changed it. Cause dude, you've never sang on a track?
No.
That we've done other than maybe like 2 times.
Yeah.
There's been like those things where you'll just like go and do it. But you did a cover of the Nirvana song that I still have.
Definitely was not Nirvana. It was Foo Fighters.
That's what it was. Okay,
it was Everlong. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Dude, and that wasn't bad. We didn't do any crazy shit to it. And I remember I was with Rachel and we were driving in the car a couple months ago actually. And I've never showed anybody that song. And whenever I went past it, I was like, okay, I got to play it. So I played it. And towards the end of the song, she was like, was that you? And I was like, no. Like, she was like, who was that? Like, it wasn't bad. It really wasn't bad. It was Chip.
It definitely wasn't Dave Grohl, but...
Dude, but it was just the fact that you were in the vocal booth and you were just strumming your guitar and singing. And it was like, that's really cool. Yeah. And that's something that you've never done before.
True.
And it was like, man, that's... And it sounded nice, dude. He knocks on himself. It wasn't like, you're not a screaming banshee, dude.
Yeah. I don't know. I just, that's the thing is, since my brain focuses so much on production, I've never thought about actually working on lyrics, vocals, anything like that. If you asked me to write a song, I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And I've listened to enough music to where you'd be like, you should be able to just get something out, right? But my mind goes blank. But if you ask me to make a chord progression, here you go. Here's 4 chords.
Yeah.
You know, or give me a drum beat and I'm there, whatever. I just can't. My brain doesn't work that way, you know. But that's why, like, I think people that can write lyrics or that only write lyrics are super cool, and I gravitate towards them because I need them. I can't write them, so I need someone else to write them for me. But yeah, I don't know. I've never found myself as a vocalist or singer, but I just always knew I wanted to do production in its purest form. I just didn't want to do anything else. I didn't see myself doing it. So
yeah. Well, all right. Before we end this, because we're recording,
okay,
I think we should make not like a pact, but just utilizing what you kind of do, right? He'll make like fucking hundreds of beats in a year, right? And then this will take you 5 to 15 minutes, and then the ones you send to me, I'm usually like being competitive with. Like, I'm like, well, fuck, dude. Now I got to go make something new and I got to like make it all shiny so I can send it to him. So we got to establish that we have to get a project out before you finish school.
That's a deal.
So in this next year, we got to actually establish like a set project. And I already have have that concept. But now that we're recording this, we got to get on a roll of utilizing your attention span of drifting away after 5 minutes. You send me that beat, and then I'll add my touch onto it, and then I'll send it back to you. So that way it like keeps the whole thing, you know. But you're here for the summer, so it'll be easier. So maybe we'll get a song out, and anybody who's watching this, probably our moms only.
Did you ever hear the story of the song "A Sky Full of Stars" by Coldplay?
No.
So it's by Coldplay, right? Great song. But what happened was they actually recruited Avicii, you know, rest in peace, but they recruited Avicii for it. And what they ended up doing was they made one song that Avicii made and one song that Coldplay made. Same like, template of like the same chords, whatever. And then they came together and they said, this is what we've got. And they just took bits and pieces from both songs and made it a new song. And it's a beautiful song.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of the times what we do, you know, so.
Yeah, we need to do that.
For sure.
So, all right. Well, thank you for being a part of this second episode.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. It's been a blast. It's been awesome.
Oh, yeah. All right. I don't know when the next episode is going to be, so I'll just keep it all on social.
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
I hate when people say that.
Hell yeah.